Hey will you be my mentor? Well, actually, talking on the side here, I represent American Family, and one of the things I've told a few people here at the beginning was we're looking for passion. I think what we've discovered in our journey so far is that you can have people that know a lot about a technical area, but at the end of the day, if you don't have passion, then you will not move forward. Now, before we begin, I want to say all of you, in my opinion, are social entrepreneurs, and here's the reason why. This morning, when you got up, you saw the weather; it was crazy out there. Yet, you got in your car or some other transportation, maybe the public transportation system, you navigated through a risky environment, but you had a mission, and your mission was to come here, right? And then if you got here, you got some donuts and coffee, and you mingled, and you networked, you socialized, so you're a social entrepreneur. All right, I'd like to begin by, if you want to go ahead and go first, and I didn't. Close your eyes for a second. Close your eyes. Close your eyes. Close your eyes.
No. Okay. Okay.
Close your eyes. Okay. All right. Open them. So, just a little trivia. Who said the following quote? I'm encouraging young people to become social business entrepreneurs and contribute to the world rather than just making money. Making money's no fun. Contributing to and changing the world is a lot more fun. Any guesses? You saw this picture already. You probably don't recognize the individual. I can click on it. Yeah. It's just the left, top left, right?
Yeah.
And I think we already saw this name up there. That's Juan Eunice. You said that. Another quote, more recent quote, is you can just go down in flames with social consciousness and not have a thriving business. Yep. Any guesses of who this person is? Shout out some names you think. It's a woman. It's a woman. Mother Teresa? Any of you recognize this lady? Salli Jewell. Yep, recently appointed to the Department of Interior by Obama. She's the former CEO of REI. It's a very sort of environmental conscious organization. And the reason why I bring this to quotes is because when we talk about social entrepreneurship, we're always talking about tension between making money and doing good. Right? Doing well with doing good is what I learned when I worked at a nonprofit in Waukesha. But we also wanted to start a business that would fund the enterprise. But here's my favorite quote. Is Andale arriba social innovation. And there's a story to this, which I'll talk about throughout the presentation. But actually, my favorite quote, it's not mine, is thinkers need doers to get things done, and idealists need number crunchers to deliver them to reality. And the reason why is, again, another tension that we have here. We have the tension between people that are very excited, that want to contribute ideas. We have a lot of employees and that have great ideas, but many times they don't have the skills or the numeric sort of background to put a business plan together, for example, which is a lot of times what all of us have to go through as we're building a plan is, what's it going to take to make it fly? And when we start getting down to the numbers, it's like, uh-oh, it's time to go out and get some money, to raise some money. Or, you know what, this is just not going to work. It's a great idea, but it's not going to pay off. And unfortunately, a lot of ideas die on the way, okay? So let me give you a little bit of background as to American Family. How many of you have seen the Dreams campaign and either heard it on the radio? Okay, very good. How many of you have visited the Dream Bank that's in the Capitol downtown? If you haven't, thank you. If you haven't done so, please walk by there. I know it's kind of cold in these days, but as the weather gets warmer, walk down there. It's on the American Gold Bank. That's in East Wash. And it's a nice display of what we're calling right now the Dream Campaign. A lot of interactive, it's like a mini museum, if you will. A lot of multimedia, multi-sensory experiences for young people and adults. And it's just a way to experience the brand. So I encourage you to do that. A little bit of background about our American Family. If you don't already know this, we're not a national player, we're very regional. It started in Wisconsin in 1927 by a gentleman, Herman Whitmer, who basically said, you know what, there are farmers in Wisconsin that need to be served. They don't drive their cars a lot, and they store them in the winter. So this is great, let's insure them. Because they won't be filing a lot of claims, all right? That is an opportunistic individual, but it's also an entrepreneur. Somebody who had passion to follow through with that. So we've expanded all around the country, primarily in the Midwest, and our latest venture is in Georgia in 2009. Some of the products are at the bottom, but we're continually innovating. Now, if you hear the word insurance and innovation, how many of you think it's an oxymoron? I'm here to tell you that you're partially right. It is a highly regulated industry, okay? And we have to sort of expand our thinking beyond the traditional set of products. And a lot of people that have worked at our company, it's a great company to work for. They've been there for 15, there's not a week that goes by that people don't celebrate their 15th, the 20th, the 30-year anniversary, right? The people have seen the industry evolve. But at the same time, there's people that have been doing the same thing for many years. And so you people come in there and say, well, why do we have to do this? Why don't we do this a certain way? Let's challenge that. There's friction, there's tension again, right? So what we have though, in this environment, we have, I think what the Harvard Business Review calls it, the sort of 4 platforms for social innovation and entrepreneurship, or entrepreneurial environmental responsibility. We have innovation. I'll talk a little bit about that after this slide. We have diversity programs. We have for example, 2 large called BRGs, business research groups, and those are individuals that can volunteer, that can be a part of this organized, if you will, set of activities that we produce, programs to educate people about other cultures, about different aspects of American family. We have a wellness program where we encourage employees to be active, okay? And then, of course, we have sustainability, a specific department that works on sustainability, looking at our facilities. If you have never visited, we have a very large campus on the east side. We have a garden. We're talking about gardens for our employees. In the summer, they go out there and they plant little, your vegetables, whatnot. And we have a greenhouse over there. We have a plant sale for the community. So American Family is a little bit different because we have resources. We're not going out there to get venture capital per se. So what we do is we have to reallocate our money into areas that we believe. Okay, so it's a little bit different from the other groups that we talked about. In fact, some of you have come or will come to talk to us, find out how we can partner with you. And here are some of the causes that we've done. You're familiar with the Children's Hospital downtown, American Family Children's Hospital. We have the Teen Safe Driver program. We've helped United Way. In fact, we're the largest donor or contributor to United Way in Dane County. We work with Smoke Alarm, Child Safety Seat programs, a lot of different, the Boys and Girls Club, trying to help people or contribute with money. Let me talk a little bit about the Teen Safe Driver program, because a lot of entrepreneurs start with solving a problem or an issue, okay? And as an organization, we wanted to solve this issue a while back. Some of the stats are staggering. In the U.S., motor vehicle crashes are #1 cause of death among 15 to 19-year-olds. Okay? Number 2 is in 2007, more than 34% of all teen deaths were related to vehicle accidents. I don't know if you have any teenagers or young ones that are going to be teenagers soon. You think about that. When you hand off the keys, they're getting behind the car, they're texting, they're driving, they're playing the music, they have their friends in the back, they have the radio. There's a lot of distraction going on. And the last thing is 1 in 16 is involved in a car crash their first year of driving. So we had to address that. So we adopted some technology. It's called the Teen Safe Driver program. It's free for those of you who want to participate in the first year. You can mount the camera and right underneath the rearview mirror, and it records anytime there's some sort of movement, erratic movement or sharp turns. It records the first, I believe it's the first 8 seconds, and then if something happens, the next 4 seconds after that. And the reason why is because we want to have the parents to have a conversation with the teenagers. As soon as that video is captured, it gets sent automatically to the parents. Of course, the teenagers might not really like that. But what has happened is that there's been a reduction in the number of fatalities and accidents that happen simply as a result of having that sort of monitor there. And so it sends the video clip to the parents and look, here's what happens. You almost veered off because you were chatting with your friends and there's, It's, what baffles me is even though there's a camera there and the kids, see, they're still doing this stuff. They're still on there texting and you see them in the video, like, that's crazy. So what we solved a part of the problem. We solved the post. Here's what you did. Now think about the people that don't make it. So we're looking at technologies to prevent that from happening. How can we do something to alert them that, hey, your car is veering up? For example, Mercedes is already looking at some of that technology, very expensive cars that tell you when you're moving off your lane, right? Or when you're too close to the car. So we're exploring technology that will allow people to do that. And it's really a win-win for us. We don't want, your children, our children, to get into accidents, for emotional reasons, right? And also for financial reasons. So we want to be more proactive. And so in the environment that we're playing in right now, we are taking a lot of ideas from our employees. This is a journey our innovation department just started about a year ago, unofficially. And by unofficially, I mean there were only 3-4 souls in our 4,000+ building offices. And we started, very far left, this is like a timetable, to launch a website that allowed any employee to submit ideas. And we left it very broad. In fact, we wouldn't even call it innovation at the time. I think we called it innovation, but it was more like a glorified suggestion box, if you will. We got a ton of ideas about everything from change the light bulbs to save some energy. Why don't you convert your fields into farms? But also we have some product ideas. And so what we had to do with these thousands of ideas is take them in, look at them, what is the potential, what is the cost benefit. Is anybody interested in working with some of these ideas? And that's what I mean, going back to the passion. Realize that it's a great ideas, those are not lacking, but how do we move them forward? So sort of I'm on a hunt for entrepreneurs, people that are within the company, that are very passionate, that are willing to cobble up together skills if they don't have them. We connect them, so they say, hey, you need somebody that's an actuary to run the numbers to find out if this new product is going to make sense. You want somebody to help you market the product and package together so when we do put it out there, it resonates with your audience. You want somebody to perhaps train. And so what we've been doing in this last year of the journey is we've been experimenting, if you will. We put out specific challenges. And we put a mobile challenge about a couple of weeks ago saying, we want to give our agents, because we're primarily an agent-focused organization, and that's how we deliver our products compared to other competitors that do things online. And we want to give those agents tools so when they go talk to their customers, they can do something with their iPad, if you will. So it was very specific to a mobility interface. It went very well. We had 60 ideas. We put some nice money for the first prize, second prize, third prize. It's always helpful. $10,000, $5,000, and $3,000 for second and third prize. However, we don't want to necessarily induce people through extrinsic motivation, right? But we want them to have intrinsic motivation, and that's why the search for entrepreneurs comes into play. We had, for example, a gentleman who submitted. He's been talking with different parts of the company for the past year. Are you guys familiar with Amber Alerts, missing children? He said he wanted to do something about it. Why don't we leverage the network of individuals that we have across our footprint, and then when something happens, there's that text that can be automatically sent to that area, right? Be working with them to try to help to develop a very long process because everybody's doing their own little job. I'm marketing. I'm a finance person. Okay, yes, I'll like it. I'll get to it. So it's very hard for us to move ideas forward. The reason why I put this here is because 3 things. Number one, the lessons that I've learned in the past year or so is number one, experiment. We have this goggles that we are using. You probably know, they call them beer goggles, but we like to distract the driver goggles, right? That you kind of wear, and we have a driving simulator. We want to have people do certain activities like texting and driving, or taking this like a video game. But we do a pre and post assessment based on some of the things that we give them. And also wearing many hats. We're constantly wearing many hats. When we're not in coaching, we're the devil's advocate. No, we don't think that idea will work. Let's reframe it a different way. And so I think any entrepreneur, whether you're a social entrepreneur, whether you're an entrepreneur, I think you go through the same sort of dilemmas and lack of resources. but not a lack of creativity. There should never be a lack of creativity, stimulus and all that. So anyway, and you have fun along the way. There's going to be lots of ups and downs. As any of you that have tried to start a business, so Will mentioned this, you always constantly retweaking your idea. But in the end, if you can have it fun, kind of laugh at it and still go at it the next day, I think we've done our job. So thank you. That's it for me.
Thank you. We have time for a few questions. We got a little bit of a late start this morning, trying to allow time for folks to make their way in. So I'll walk around, and if you think you might have a question, raise your hand, and I'll try to kind of scan the audience now, and I'll make my way around. Can you hold up your hand if you have a question? Okay. Okay, I'll start on this end and work my way down. We'll try to do this quickly, so please make your questions brief.
This is for Edgar. In a for-profit organization, you're kind of a, I don't want to call you an oddball, but what's, yeah.
That's a technically correct term.
Okay, a square peg in a round hole. How are you accepted by the rest of the organization? And what was the process to get you introduced there? I think it's a great program.
Yeah, that's a very good question. So like I said earlier, everybody's sort of doing their own job, and they see innovation as a very neat idea. But again, we're in some ways disruptive. And what I mean by that is that there's some idea that was brought up by this side of the room, but ultimately is going to have to be done by this side of the room. And so when we take this idea and we look at it, and we have other subject matter experts saying, great idea, and I go back here and say, okay, now, guess what? This is a great idea. Can you do it? It's like, hey, we have our business plan. We have our priorities. Can you tell us more about it? Can you do more research? And they start pushing back and back and back, and we go back to square one. So in a way, some of it find it very exciting, but when it comes down to getting now something done, it is a little bit of a negotiation process. So we have to go back and forth, and I think we went about it a little bit differently. And having learned this next time, or I guess in the next rounds, we will find very specific challenges. For example, the claims. We have a big claims department, and going to them and saying, what are the top 3 problems that you're trying to solve? In fact, I just got a challenge yesterday. It says, we have a big problem with roofs. People don't change the roofs on time, and so we're paying more because they're not taking care. So financially, and so we have a week to come up with a proposal. Like, okay, let's start looking at the research, and then I have a research background. So how to look at the data, what are the numbers? And so, long story short, it is welcoming, but I think it's a challenge. It's an education process, because we have the organizations or the divisions have to see the value that we bring to the table. Said, you don't have to worry about it. You don't have to project manage it. We'll project manage it. Just put one person in the team so that we can connect back to your organization.
Thanks, Edgar. I was actually going to ask almost the exact same question. That's really interesting, guys. I think it's exciting that a large organization like American Family could embrace social entrepreneurship and social development, where change is the big word, and change is hard with a big organization. I work for a big organization as well, just recently took a job. So I'm going to ask a different question. One, to both you and Salli, and the others as well. So with social entrepreneurship and these ideas, there's always that balance of making it work financially, and how do we pay for it? Where does the money come from? Can you give us any examples or stories of how you go about thinking about that? Do you put the money aside when you start thinking about these ideas, or is it always there? How does it work for you guys?
Let me just say real quick now, pass on the mic. One of the things that we have referenced at the beginning is say we don't have to make money right away. Part of the evaluation process is how well do we undertake our experiments, okay? So if a person comes to us with a concept and says, how can we pilot it in a very small part of our footprint, our states, and seeing if there's results. We might lose money, obviously. How do you tell somebody you may, out of 10 investments, you might lose 9? And that's something that we tell them. Are you prepared for that? If yes, then let's go ahead and do this. But it is tricky. And the other thing about change too, I'll mention real quickly. How do you change the culture for that? I was jokingly saying to some colleagues, I lived in Italy for a while, and so in southern Italy, where when you greet each other, you give a kiss on the cheeks, whether it's men or women, at work. I said, think about it, if we were just to do that in American family, all of a sudden change the culture, and tomorrow, everybody's going to give a kiss to each other, in their cheeks. It's very hard. Something as simple as it is to do is very hard. Just want to make
Interesting question in terms of the money. We, at Forward Community Investments, we launched a new line of business 2 years ago. And just like any business, we managed for loss for the first year. Really looking at the fact that, that no business is going to make money the first year. And so in terms of that division, we actually did experience a loss, but we were able to actually absorb that from our reserves that we had set aside. So I think it's just understanding the fact that when you do launch anything, it's a risk. And it's a risk that you have to take and be aware of. And I think as long as you're aware of it and it doesn't come as a surprise, I think that you can manage it a lot better also.
Other questions? So Edgar, this one's also for you, and it dovetails the conversations that we've had already. A big part of innovation in an organization is the support that you receive from the executive leadership team. Because as you mentioned already, the resources that need to be allocated to support what could potentially be a high risk but high payoff opportunity, there's always that criteria of, is this really worth it? What was the process that an American Family went through in terms of, was it driven by the executive level? And what criteria do you use, and you don't have to give me the specifics, but just kind of the general idea of how do you go about vetting out the decisions? Because they say there's like 3,000 ideas you have to have one go-to-market strategy, to find one really great idea. So how do you do that?
Okay, the answer to your first question is yes.
Okay, sorry.
Yes, it is. We do have the executive support. Our president, Jack Salzweedl, sort of promoted this late last year and said this is something that we want everybody to focus. But we are, the second part of your question is how do we evaluate these ideas? So we have 4 strategic pillars. We have one is growth, one is financial strength, we have people advantage, and then we have, I guess I'm forgetting the 4th one. The cost, financial strength, people advantage, and gosh, I'm blanking out on the 4th one.
So when you go in the parking lot, I'll give you my phone number.
Thank you.
Drive out of it, you'd be like, I got it!
No. But basically, it's a balance between all these 4 elements. So initially we said, let's take all these ideas, right? But then we realized we're getting a lot of things that perhaps did not contribute that to the bottom line. All we are for profit, right?
Sure.
So the growth is one component, and the cost savings is another one, because we've had some difficult years because of the economy. And so if the idea, the employee marks checks off the box, where does it add up to the most, right? And if it matches the criteria, then we take it to the next layer. So it's stage gating. That's what the official term of innovation is called. Then we look at it and say, now prepare an elevator pitch. They submitted the idea, right? They have to answer questions of how many people does it impact, how much does it going to cost a year. Very rough, and that's a part that catches a lot of people because they're like, I don't know, like, it's a new idea. Okay, just take the best shot at it. Just take the best shot. Tell me, is it going to impact 10% of our customers or 90%? And a lot of people have a hard time. I'm a finance guy, and I have a hard time with that. And so then what happens is that we select some ideas, and they come in front of a panel, our director panel, and they give their 4-minute elevator speech, 5-minute elevator speech. Now, another trick to that is some people are really good presenters. Some are very poor. Just because they're poor, we should penalize them for the idea. And so we try to coach them, and we try to make sure that they advance in the process. If they pass that gate, then we ask them to do a full-blown business case, right? And then they work with their teams, with that 5-person team to develop it. And then if they want funding, they come back to us and say, look, we want $50,000 to do this focus group and do this experiment in this area. Ray will give them money, and then we measure it. But it's, the support from the executives is very important, and we're still, it's almost as if people bring up innovation, and then they forget about it. And then they bring it up again, and they forget about it. So it's an ongoing education process.
I'm so glad that you mentioned about the 4 to 5 minute pitch, because I'm looking at some of my colleagues in the room, and our students get so frustrated with us when we tell them, yes, you have to make this presentation in just 4 or 5 minutes, right? And you're like, what, that's not enough time, right? That's all you'll have in the real world, so I'm really happy to hear you say that. And you really will only have 45 minutes. And we just have a minute or two left. Denise had a question, and with just one last quick question, and then I have just a couple of quick announcements. Scott has an announcement. Do you want to go ahead?
I had a question. I know Dryhootch has a local chapter. Is there, what are ways that for all of you we can support your efforts?
Well, you can buy our coffee. No, you all have veterans and family members that are in your workplace. So a lot of times giving help to them and recognizing sometimes the struggle they're through, especially if they have somebody being served. But, you know, we can bring programs to companies that talk about when veterans and families have issues, what are some of the resources that they can get to. Because a lot of times there's a ton of resources out there. We don't just know how to match it up. You know, in Milwaukee, we partnered with a couple companies that we've come out and worked with their HR people and set up resources that they can get it to. And some companies have driven different programs, you know, where they mentioned Dryhootch, a percentage will go. You know, Steinhoffel's Furniture, for instance, has done that kind of thing. So anything that brings recognition to the cause, which is good for everybody, and it's also a win-win for the business. I think anytime when you're trying to do something, you know, that's good for the community, no matter what the cause is.
Buy Off the Block salsa. That's a way that you can help measure positives. It's very good salsa, I know firsthand experience. And it'll be available soon at Metcalf's Market. Hopefully. If it's not there, you should ask them at the front desk why it's not there.
Ask for the guy in the underwear.
Bob, if you didn't hear that, Bob said ask for the guy in the underwear. Denise had a question. I'm going to give her an opportunity to ask this last quick question, and then I have just a couple of closing comments.
It was actually answered, yes.
It was
same
answered,
question.
okay. And somebody else, quick last question.
I was just wondering, Edgar, could follow up with an email with the websites of our presenters.
We will do that for sure. We'll be, actually that's a perfect segue into one of my closing comments, which is we'll be following up with each of you with an email asking you for your input on this event, and we'll include that information. Can you help us remember that? Thank you, that's a great idea. But I do really strongly encourage you to look further. Obviously time doesn't permit us to go into a lot of detail about these individual organizations, but I strongly encourage you to look further into the work that they do. They've just scratched the surface this morning of the really innovative ways that they're helping solve problems in our community, and I'm so grateful to them. So first of all, thank you so much for braving this weather. Thank you so much to Neil Fauerbach and Smith & Jesselman for sponsoring this executive speaker series for many years now. We appreciate their support tremendously. And we invite you to help yourself to a little pocket snack on the way out. We always have too much food left over when it finally showed up this morning, of course. We also have some information outside on a number of our programs, but one thing in particular that I wanted to call your attention to in May, in late May and early June, the School of Business offers an international study tour to China, and this is for our graduate students and for our returning adult accelerated degree program students. It's also available to people in the business community who are interested in a really amazing opportunity to not only to travel to Beijing and Shanghai and Suzhou to visit some of the historic and cultural sites, but also to visit businesses and other organizations in China. Some of them are Wisconsin-owned organizations. Some of them are connected to Wisconsin in really interesting ways. Some of them are Chinese-owned companies. But to see firsthand, to walk through factory floors, to talk to people who are expats as well as Chinese nationals, it's a really life-changing experience. And if you are at all interested, I encourage you to take a look at the information there. It's a really fantastic value that you wouldn't be able to do on your own, not only in terms of the access to the businesses, but even the cost, because as you know, we get a better rate because of the volume, and so it's a really fantastic trip. I had the pleasure of accompanying our students last year, and I've been on a previous trip to China, and if you haven't had that experience, it's quite eye-opening and quite life-changing. So that's available to our friends in the community to take advantage of. Again, thank you so much for braving the weather, for your patience in our little bit of a late start this morning and a tiny bit of a late finish. But thank you so much for coming.